So hello today. We're going to spend a little bit of time talking about the ongoing Fulton County Transit Master Plan that is now underway. And what we're looking for is some feedback, and I'll be showing you later at the end of the presentation a survey that we're hoping to provide some good feedback for what residents and employees of Fulton County need in resulting in their transportation desires for both the North Fulton and South Fulton areas. This has been a several-month process, and the first phase of the project finished up over the summer, where we did a lot of community visioning and inventory of the existing transit conditions in both North and South Fulton. We're now in the scenario development phase of the project, where we actually have identified key corridors based on what the community told us in the first series of public meetings. And from there, we're going to refine those scenarios down to what the exact master plan will be for the area. The plan includes both technical committees as well as a financial task force. One of the things that we're really trying to make sure that we do as part of the project is to, whatever recommendations are made, make them financially viable so they can actually be implemented. So the financial task force is a very important part of the entire process. As I said, during the first phase, we did a series of public meetings held in all of the communities in Fulton County. All these include outside of the actual city of Atlanta itself, which is not part of the study. It's just the communities of North and South Fulton. From that, we had quite a bit of positive feedback in the area. In the North, there was quite a bit of desire to extend transit service up further north on 400, as well as east and west along 285. And then there was a number of key corridors throughout Roswell and Johns Creek, Milton and Alpharetta, along Holcomb Bridge, Old Milton, Highway 141, Wynwood Parkway, around the Avalon development, as well as Roswell Road and other segments of Highway 9 and Johnson Ferry, Abernathy roads as a way to get into Sandy Springs from the far western parts of the county. One of the key important things to look at when you are designing transit systems is concentration of riders. Most people know that transit requires a certain amount of density, either employee density or residential density. And so what we're doing as part of the project is to overlay both where people want service on top of where the concentration of riders are, because that's where we think we'll get the biggest bang for our buck. So for the North Fulton, we've kind of identified those areas, and not surprising, a lot of them are along the 400 corridor and down by 285. We did a similar type of exercise with South Fulton, and the main corridors there were along the I-85 Roosevelt Highway corridors, South Fulton Parkway running east-west, Hapeville Connections, Fulton Industrial Boulevard, Camp Creek Parkway, Flat Shoals Road, as well as Highway 74. Most people know that South Fulton does not have the density that North Fulton has, but where it is, south of the airport along Old National, 85, 285, in that area, has very high concentration of possible transit riders, so that's where a lot of the things have been focused on. The project also identified a number of guiding principles to provide greater access to employment, provide economic development in the area. From a user perspective, provide faster, more reliable mobility to mitigate congestion in these corridors, to enhance transportation options and access, to maximize the return on the investments. Again, make sure that we put transit lines where the most likely riders would be, as well as create a framework to provide a bunch of regional connectivity throughout the area. In that, we are now looking through a number of different evaluation criteria to figure out which are the most likely improvements in corridors that serve transit, involving looking at the projected needs and the current needs along these key corridors, the feasibility of providing for multiple modes along the corridors, and finally, how well each mode type will support those guiding principles we just talked about. So where we are right now is we've identified a series of preliminary alternatives along key corridors, and more specifically the types of transit that most likely serve along those corridors. So in the north, we've kind of focused on Georgia 400 with heavy rail and light rail options, as well as bus rapid transit. 285 will probably lend itself better for bus rapid transit and light rail. And then the surface streets, Holcomb Bridge, Old Milton, Highway 141, Roswell Road, Highway 9, Abernathy, Wynwood Parkway, would probably be good candidates for both bus rapid transit lines as well as local service and flexible bus service in the area. On the South Fulton area, there was a similar type of alternatives developed along 85, Roosevelt Highway, South Fulton Parkway into Hapeville. All those are good candidates for heavy and light rail as well as bus rapid transit. And then some of the other key corridors, Fulton Industrial, Camp Creek Parkway, Flat Shoals Road, and Highway 74 are good candidates for frequent local bus and enhanced local bus service, as well as some flexible bus service. So right now we're in the middle of collecting a series of public comments on the alternatives. We've had a number of meetings up in north and south. We still have another couple of weeks of meetings that are going to be happening in the south. But more importantly, we have an online survey, which I'm going to show you real quick. You want to go to that? So it's actually a pretty quick and it's easy survey, and you just want to walk them through it. It's on the Transit Master Plan homepage, and then near the top there's a button that clicks Take the Master Plan Survey, and there's only 5 questions altogether. The first question, after you hit OK, asks you what city that you lived in, and the next things talks about those guiding principles that we went over, and they asked you which areas to put them in an order of which is most important to you yourself. And then you scroll down to the next section, deals with North Fulton, and it's broken into an area where they're asking you for your 3 highest priority projects on various corridors, as well as the transit type of service on those corridors. For instance, heavy rail versus light rail, express bus service versus bus rapid transit, and those types of things on all those key corridors that we talked about. And then we have the exact same type of question as you continue to scroll down through the survey. In South Fulton, heavy rail, light rail, bus rapid transit on all those key corridors. And so we're asking everybody to please vote for the 3 top priorities in each of those corridors, or in each of those sections, North Fulton as well as South Fulton, which we'll be able to put together and come up with the master plan. So with that, that kind of concludes tonight's presentation, and we'll open it up for any questions.